Hello and welcome to the OGHS Library channel with Mrs. Berg. I'm Mrs. Berg, and today we're going to be talking about how to create a beautiful and effective presentation. So today I'm going to actually be using Google Slides to kind of show you some tips and tricks for making a really nice looking, well done presentation, but you could also apply any of the strategies that we're talking about today to really any platform that you can utilize to create a presentation. So PowerPoint, Prezi, Canva, anything like that. The rules will still kind of apply, but I am going to show you a few tricks with Google just to kind of get you started on some template stuff. So we're going to start by going to Google Slides. I'm just going to click my little waffle icon here when I'm in Google, go to Slides. And right away at the top here, you're going to see that Google will offer you this template gallery. So if you click template gallery in Google Slides, you're going to see all of these like pre-made templates that Google has available for you to use. And kind of based on like where you're working or where you're going to school, you might have some templates available through your school as well. So you might see a tab up there and you can click on it. My school doesn't have any templates for us, but just know that that might be an option for you as well. Now, the Google Slides templates are just kind of basic in my opinion. I don't really usually use any of them. I usually like to use something a little more creative than what Google provides. So I have two places that you can go to find really awesome templates if you're working in Google Slides or if you're working for PowerPoint. The first one that I'm going to show you guys today is Slides Carnival, and it's literally just slidescarnival.com. And they have so many different templates that you can choose from. And of course, none of these are going to load, but you can go to all templates. You can search by color, by style. You can actually like type in the search bar if you're looking for something specific. So let me just see if I can get this to load here. There we go. So they have all of these really cool templates that you guys can choose from. They're completely free for you to download. And they can integrate with Canva. That's a new feature. That's super cool. That's new since the last time I visited. So you can kind of look for what you're looking for here. If you find something that you're like, oh, that looks kind of cool, you can actually click on it and then you can like scroll through and see the different slides that it has available to you to use if you decide to use that template. So it's actually pretty awesome. And this one is a Canva only template, but some of the other ones will also integrate with Google and with PowerPoint. So you can just kind of look at the little icons there. The other website that I wanted to show you is Slidesmania. So it's slidesmania.com. And again, it's the exact same concept as Slides Carnival. You can search all templates. You can search by all of these different categories and subject areas. So, I don't know, if you wanted, what I like about Slidesmania is that it does have all of these different options, like for educators, like they have game templates for slideshow presentations, choice board, planner ideas, notebook style, like lots of like really cool kind of pre-made templates for you guys to use. I think I got a Jeopardy one from here once. I'm gonna search Jeopardy and just kind of see if anything pops up. Yeah, so like pre-made game template. I don't quite think that's Jeopardy, but something close to it. And of course, if you just like search the internet too, you'll probably find a lot of other free slide templates that you can use with Google Slides or Canva or whatever. But these are just the two that they're my go-tos. So I'm actually going to go back to Slides Carnival, and I'm going to download one of these just for funsies. Let's just go with this one. This one looks really cute. Oh, nope, that's Canva only. Okay, I want a Google Slide one. We'll do this one, Music Club. All right, so when you click on one, you find something that you like, you'll just have the option to download, and it'll be the same thing over here. So if I were to click on it, this one has a lot of ads that pop up. Yeah. You should have the option to download this one as well. Right there, the little download button. So kind of, oh, nope, that was Grammarly. JK. Okay, maybe it's not going to work for this one. Let's see. Maybe just go to all templates on this one. I'll just click the first one I see here. Yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of this one because it's a little less user-friendly, but there you go. You can just open in Google Slides. And then here, same thing. If I just click Google Slides, it should automatically open. You'll just make a copy of it, and then you'll have editing access, and you'll be good to go. All right, so now I'm going to show you kind of some ways that you can amp up your presentations. The biggest things that you're going to want to keep in mind with presentations that you're putting together is, one, you want to limit the number of words that you have on any given slide. So if we look at this slide right here that kind of came pre-made with the template, this is a lot of words. I wouldn't recommend ever having this many words on a slide. It's just kind of a lot for like your viewers or your listeners when you're presenting to digest. And if just think about it this way, if they're trying to read everything that you have on a slide, they're not going to be listening to you. The other issue that occurs when we have a lot of words on a slide, especially if we're doing like a presentation of some kind, is we tend to use that slide as a crutch and we end up just reading off of it. So it's a really good practice to just limit the amount of words that you have on any given slide and just kind of do like bullet point ideas. So if we look at like this template, this would be an example of a really well put together slide if you're doing some sort of presentation. It's got minimal wording. It's got a nice visual that's like nice to look at as I'm a viewer of this presentation. You know, it draws my eye, but it's not distracting. So I'm not going to be distracted or overwhelmed by this slide when I'm trying to listen to a presenter. So that's kind of the biggest thing that you have to keep in mind when you're starting to create a presentation, is you want to make sure that you're limiting the amount of words that you have on a slide. Visuals as well. We don't want to overstimulate our viewers with visuals. So this does a nice job of, it's cool, like it does a really nice job of visually laying everything out for you, but it's not like overwhelming. For instance, like if I were going to have this as a regular slide and add a lot more text to it, that's a lot going on that slide, and that could be really overwhelming. Like I wouldn't suggest using this particular slide or image as anything other than a title slide, because there's just a lot going on with the visuals on this slide. So those are the kind of the key things to keep in mind when you're preparing to create a presentation: minimal wording, and then make sure your visuals aren't overwhelming to your viewer. So I have an example of kind of a handout here that I thought I would use to kind of show you how you can translate, maybe some notes or something that you have as you're preparing a presentation to the actual presentation itself. So this is a project that I have my education students do, and you can see there's a lot of words, like there's a lot of directions at the beginning, there's a really big prompt here for them. There's a huge rubric with all of this information on it. And maybe as an educator, I want to find a way to put this into kind of a simple PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to use to introduce them to the project. Or like if you're a student and maybe you have a ton of notes from class that you have to put into, a condensed, 5-10 minute presentation, these are going to be some strategies that you can use. Okay, so let's start with the directions portion. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you're transitioning, notes into a visual presentation of some sort, is you're going to want to separate kind of like your categories, right? Or like your topic headers, something like that. So mine's kind of already done for me on here. Like I have a section for directions. I'm going to want to have a slide for directions. I have a section with the prompt. I'm going to want to have at least one slide, if not two, for the prompt, because this is kind of a big chunk of information. And then for the rubric, I'm probably going to want to break this rubric down into multiple slides, because that's a lot of information to try to cram into one slide. Remember, we want to do minimal information in each of our slides. So if we look here at the rubric, I've got content depth, content insight, and content research. So maybe I would do just those 3 rubric elements on one slide, and then I could break up the rest of it into maybe like 2 other slides as well. So just the first thing before you even start doing your visual presentation is just to figure out, okay, what are the like major categories that I'm going to want for each slide. Once you figure that out, then you can kind of go back to your template or whatever you're using, and you can just kind of decide, okay, well, how do I want it laid out on the template? So what I like about the templates is they give you a lot of variety in the slides that they provide you. So like this one has 3 different sections, so I could put like 3 different pieces of information. Well, that might be really good for one of my rubric slides, because like if I go back to my rubric, remember I had the 3 different sections: content depth, insight, and then research. Well, that would be really great for depth, content, research. I could do it like that and then just have a little bit of information under each of those headings. And so like if I go here, It could also work here because I've got 3 sections. But for the directions, I probably just want like one chunk of information, unless it's more of like a step-by-step direction type of thing, then maybe I would want something like this, like do like a timeline or like a step-by-step. So you can kind of just scroll through here and see, okay, what's going to work for me. Looking at this one, I think this one might work for my direction page. So I'm going to start editing this. The nice thing about the templates is you can edit pretty much everything. I mean, you can like drag and move the images, you can edit the words, you can move the slides around in different order. So anytime I use a slide, I always drag it all the way up to the beginning. And I'm going to leave it as the second because I'm going to keep that header. So I'm going to drag it all the way up to the beginning because I'm going to know, okay, these are the slides that I've edited and want to keep for my presentation. So I'm just going to write here, maybe if I can, there we go. I'm just going to write directions. And then this is going to be the hard part, right? Because on this, document, I've got a lot of directions. So if you have a lot of substance that you're trying to fit into a slide, what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to pick out the key details. You want to avoid using complete sentences on your slide. So the last thing that I would want to do is just copy and paste this entire paragraph onto that slide. That's going to be way too overwhelming. Even if I like put it in bullet points, that's still too much information. And it's complete sentences, both of which I want to avoid. So if I kind of look through here, I have some stuff underlined in the directions, which are important pieces of information. So I'm probably going to want to at least put the underlined pieces of information onto my slide. So I could do something like 4 to, 10-minute TED Talk style lecture. And then I think my next one was 2 sources. Yep. 2 reliable sources, right? So that's pretty minimalistic. But what I can do while I'm presenting this information to my class is I'll elaborate on it. But these are just bullet points to kind of help me remember what to talk about, and then to also help your audience kind of follow along with what you're saying and what you're talking about. Now, if I look back on here, the other thing is that they do have the option to create like some sort of slideshow. So I might want to add that on here as well. So maybe I'll add one more line that says optional visual presentation. Right? And there we have it. Like that is like a really great way to take all of this information and then condense it down into something that's very visually pleasing, very easy for my audience to read. So that's kind of the process you're going to want to use for putting your presentation together. And then what I usually do at the end when I'm done with the template, I've moved all of my slides up to the top, kept them in order. And then what I'll do is I'll just go through and I'll delete the rest of them. And you can do this so let's say I use this one and I use this one and I don't use the rest. I can just click on the first one, scroll all the way down, hit shift, click on the last one. It'll highlight all of those in between the 2 that I clicked, and then I can just hit delete and it'll get rid of all of those slides. So then I'll just be left with the ones that I've prepared for my presentation. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the use of animation. So what we can do here, let's say I want to, what kind of a good practice in my opinion is like if you have kind of bullet point style lists, or if you have a slide like this where you've got 3 pieces of information, having that all pull up at the same time, again, what's going to happen is your audience is going to stop listening to you and they're going to read the entire slide all at once. So a good practice is to have just the pieces of information that you're currently talking about pull up while you're talking about them. And the way to do that is to insert animation. So for example, on this slide, if I click on this text, and of course, this is just how you do it on Google Slides. It's a little bit different if you're working with another platform. But if I would click on it, I could go insert animation. I'm going to move myself over here. And then what I can do is I can, it automatically inserts a piece of animation for whatever I had highlighted. So that's what this is right here. And I can choose to have each of these lines appear at their own pace by doing by paragraph. So now when I click, because it says on click, so when I press an arrow, when I'm in presenter mode, or if you have like a clicker, if you press the clicker, or if you press the space bar when you're in presenter mode, what'll happen is it'll just present one line at a time after I click, which is my favorite thing to do, especially when I'm presenting to students and I know they're going to get distracted and read ahead and all that. I just do one line at a time. So that's the way you would do that. If you have like a timed presentation, like you know you want a certain item to appear at a certain time, you could do after previous. Sometimes you can set it based on time. Like if you're using PowerPoint, you can actually time out your entire presentation, so you don't have to click any buttons. It'll just automatically progress, but that's as long as you are pacing yourself consistently and saying the same thing every single time you present it. So just kind of keep that in mind. So I'll kind of show you what this looks like by hitting play. It'll kind of walk me through what this will look like when I'm presenting. So the directions will pop up automatically, and then every time I click, the next line will pop up. So that's a pretty easy way to do it. The other thing that you might want to play around with is a slide transition. So this is just what's going to happen when we're moving from one slide to the next. Google Slides doesn't have a ton of options for slide transitions. PowerPoint has a lot of options. Now, the thing with the slide transitions is you want to keep it consistent. Don't use a different slide transition between every slide, because that's really distracting. And again, we're not trying to distract from you, the presenter. We're just trying to help amplify and emphasize the information that you're presenting. So we want to try to keep our presentation the least distracting as possible. So you could choose any of these. I mean, they're all really professional. I really like the cube personally. I just think it looks really cool. So I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like that. So that's the cube, and you can slow it down or speed it up. And then if you want to, you can hit apply to all slides. Then it'll automatically apply that transition to every slide, which is kind of nice. All right, so those are kind of the basics for how to create a really visually appealing PowerPoint presentation. So just kind of keep those things in mind next time you're putting together any sort of visual presentation for any class or anything like that. Just keep it visually minimal, right? We don't want to overstimulate anybody with all of the visuals, all of the text, all of the graphics, all of that kind of thing. And then you should be good to go. As always, I would love it if you would please leave a comment below if you have any questions. Hit that subscribe button. That way, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Have a great one.